If you are an intermediate pianist, you'll get a lot out of the tips I'm sharing in this video. They apply to many composers, but today I'll focus on Bach. And if you'd like to go deeper, I'm excited to announce a flash sale for my newest course, Bach for Intermediate Pianists. In that course, I guide you step by step through 5 beautiful pieces by Johann Sebastian Bach, from easier to more challenging one, and showing how to memorize them, fix technical issues, play more expressively, and approach pedaling and ornamentation. It's a course designed to lift your playing to the next level, so don't miss on the discount. Tip number 1. It may sound very basic, and I'm sorry that we're starting from a more boring tip, but it's a very important one. Because in classical and Baroque styles, articulation, the way how clearly you play, is a king. When you practice, develop the habit of releasing each key the moment you strike the next one with literally no overlap, because very often most learners, I would say, have this problem, this lack of control when you hear something like something like that. You see, when the notes overlap, resulting in dissonances or just muddy texture. So your first task, imagine that you are a great equalizer and your task is to play each note with the same amount of energy, hitting the key with the same speed, basically, and releasing the previous finger as soon as you play the next note, like. And that's the only job at this stage. And you know, when someone asked Bach how he played so well, he famously said, half joking, I just press the right keys at the right moment, at the right time. And that's only half of the truth, I have to say, because releasing on time is equally important. And the first stage of working of a piece can feel boring, but it's absolutely essential. Aim for perfectly even tone. Build stable knuckles, so each finger would be supported well without bending backwards, and feel support at the bottom of the key. And if each finger can successfully carry the weight of the arm, then the other fingers are free to release completely, so you avoid hidden tension and gain real control. Tip number 2, chunking and motive structures. When you play long melodic lines, learn to chunk them into smaller motifs. For example, this line. We have so many notes, but in Bach, we can break such long lines into motifs which are typically 4 notes long. Those are our cells, our molecules, musical molecules. And in Bach, most motifs actually start on the 2nd, 16th, or 8th note and lead into the next strong beat. So, for example, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. We start from the 2nd, 16th note, or for example, 2nd, 8th note. Or for example, here also 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You see? So it very often starts from the 2nd, 16th note. And even when it starts from the 1st note, you can mentally kind of disconnect the 1st note. Like here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And think in motifs from the 2nd note. Why it is important? There are 2 huge benefits of this kind of mindset. First, it's a faster learning, because like cutting a long French baguette into slices before eating it. It's a good idea instead of trying to swallow the whole thing, right? Breaking a phrase, longer phrase, into motifs make it much easier to digest. So you have to chunk a long thing into shorter things in order to learn it efficiently. And it will also tremendously help you with a better expression, because every small motif carries meaning and is already expressive on its own. And very often, 2 motifs can have very different expressivity. And if you can shape and inflect each of them individually, your playing becomes so much more alive. Like, for example, in this piece, if I feel the motifs, the intensity of each particular motive. And if I first practice like 2, 3, 4, phrasing each of them, I love you too, I love you too, I love you too, I love you too. And you see what happens? I don't really want to accent strong beats, because the strong beat is accidentally the last note of our motive. So the expression would be like this and not like this at the end, yeah? And this is a great tip to avoid a common problem of vertical playing when it feels like because this is horrible, and this is like when you hear something like that, you're like, oh my god. And when you think in motives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, you don't really want to accent the next beat, because this is the last note of your motive. And in some editions, you even have those small commas after the first beat. And this is to give you a hint that the phrasing starts from the second note and leads to the next bar, to the first beat. And then, if you treat them separately, if you treat them individually, you can feel that this motive, it's like equilibrium. It's really like stable. It's quiet. And this one, it's a much more active one, because we have a wider interval and we outline a dominant 7th chord. And then again, a more quiet one, a more excited one. So you start to feel that there are a lot of interesting things within that line. And great musicians articulate the inner motives within long lines always, and that's what sets them apart from everyone else. And there is nothing dry or mechanical about Bach. Each leap, each motive is full of meaning, full of emotional weight. And remember, ornaments are melodies, so play them mostly on the beat in Bach and resist the urge to rush too much. Of course, nowadays everyone wants to experiment and stand apart, so of course there are also a lot of musicians who play the embellishments before the beat, but generally speaking, most musicians would say that this sounds like a little bit too romantic for Bach. So in Bach, I would not really I would not really play like this. I would not start the embellishments before the beat. I would start them on the beat, like this. So the first note of the embellishment is with your strong beat. Something like that, yeah? It sounds a little bit closer to style, I think. Although, of course, we don't know how Bach would play it himself, but we tend to play the embellishments on the beat. And most important, don't play them too fast. So say them out loud in any slow, comfortable tempo first, making sure that you transfer the weight from finger to finger properly first, like that. If necessary, employing some rotation or motions in-out, whatever you feel helps you to support each note and control each note first, and then gradually speed up, still feeling that weight transfer from one finger to another. In lyrical pieces, ornaments should enhance the character and not disturb it. So, for example, if you have anything lyrical like this, let's say, it's not Bach, I'm just improvising, but you want this embellishment also to be part of the line. You also want it to be tender, because very often it happens like a person plays very beautifully and then this happens and you're like, oh my god, electrical shock, convulsions. Yeah. So you don't want that. What helps tremendously is slightly raise the forearm right before the embellishment and then kind of embrace it on one uniting arm motion. Up, down. And of course, just making it gentle. Even if you want to play something quick, like for example this spot, it's better to play a shorter embellishment but still deliver that good, even quality, instead of playing it too quick but kind of approximately. Because when it's really precise and when it's not too quick, it's actually very delicious. Behind all those intricate lines lies a harmonic skeleton. And understanding the underlying chords, knowing some music theory, and being able to reduce the texture to a simple chordal outline are invaluable skills for both memorization and interpretation. So, for example, here, what would be reasonable to do is to figure out what kind of harmonic progression is hidden here. So I would play this piece in a reduced version first, like this. C major, dominant 7th chord, to F major. F major goes to G major, dominant 7th chord, to C major. And when I understand the skeleton, of course, it's so much easier to learn. Also, it's important to know which chords, to figure out which chords are more intensive, because as performers, we must feel that some chords carry more dramatic weight. They are dominants, for example, or diminished chords, or sudden modulations where a pitch is unexpectedly raised, like for example in this spot. When this F sharp emerges, signaling to us that we are approaching G major through its dominant. It's a major event and we have to react on it. We have to feel those moments, to recognize them, to understand why this chord is more intensive, and show it in order to emotionally move our listeners. So I hope that these tips help you bring more life and clarify some things about Bach. And if you'd like a detailed, guided work on 5 wonderful intermediate to, let's say, early advanced pieces, join me in my Bach for Intermediate course, and we'll work there together. Thank you for watching this, and see you next time.